Hi, friends. Thanks for checking in with us. As we are moving through a study with our ladies at Creators Fellowship Sharps on the features of God, and we started this in September. And since then, each month we've worked through a different attribute or characteristic of God, growing in our knowledge of who He is, and ultimately, the heart behind it is also to deepen our worship and deepen our understanding of who God is. And so at this point, we have journeyed through the fatherhood, friendship, faithfulness, the fullness of God, the forgiveness of God, the fountain of God. Last week, we touched on the foreknowledge of God, in that even in the uncertainties, there's still so many things that God prepared in advance that would be certain. One of them, His Word, of course. And so the foreknowledge of God, that He's gone before even these situations that we're in right now. And this week, though, we are beginning the last of this series on the features of God. And this one is my favorite. It is the one that I was really, really amped to get to share with you. It's so near and dear to my heart. And so we're not going to let all of this distance, physical distance between everyone, stop us from this, because the freedom of God is where we're going. And we all know, regardless of the situation, regardless of the circumstance, if it be social distance, it may be that isolation feels like bondage, it feels like imprisonment, it feels lonely, right? There's so many things going on right now that can feel like we're not free. We aren't able to make the choices that we always would want to. We can't even go shopping or out to eat like we would think that we normally would be able to. And so that kind of makes us feel trapped, of course. But where we're going to go with this, though, is way bigger picture than that. Because, see, where God introduced freedom to us, there's a reason that He would make it such a big deal. So, as we know what Jesus said, He said, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free." The truth shall set you free. Why would Jesus make a statement like that? Why would it matter that we know the truth? Well, because if we don't know the truth, then we can't recognize the lies, right? Where did lies begin? In the garden. We can take that right back to Genesis, to Adam and Eve, and the deception that happened in the garden when the serpent comes and starts to lure Eve away, right? And how does he do that? He does that with doubt. What did the serpent say in the garden to Eve? He said, "Did God really say that you couldn't eat of this tree? Did God really say that?" And so he starts to incite this doubt into Eve's mind to lure her away. There's a couple words even in that particular section of scripture that it says that Eve saw the fruit and that it was enticing and desirable. That it was desirable. And it was the thing that she couldn't have. And so the thing that she was not supposed to have was the thing that appeared the most desirable. And it was the thing that was the most enticing, but ultimately led to her imprisonment, ultimately led to our bondage, ultimately led to our need for knowing the truth, for knowing what sets us free, for knowing that we don't have to fall victim to these things that want to lure us away and entice us to something outside of God's will for our life. So that's where we're going to go with this whole freedom concept and freedom idea, the freedom of God. What does that mean? What does that mean for us right now? Because we could look at Eve all day long, and we could go round the mountain, I'm sure, all of us, with our opinions and ideas of what happened really there in the garden. But when Jesus said, you, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. You. So I want to ask you as we get into this, is there something that you feel in bondage to? And prison looks so many different ways, right? So one of the things that I'm unfortunately not able to do right now is the jail ministry and meeting with my ladies here at the local facility. And we talk all the time about how just because they're in jail doesn't mean they necessarily have to be in bondage. And just because I'm not in jail doesn't necessarily mean that I'm free, right? That there is an imprisonment that happens up here. There's an imprisonment that happens when things in our daily life start to lure us away and entice us. Perhaps that might be participating in some kind of Sunday fellowship or Bible study fellowship, or meeting with that group that's going to be your accountability, and you decide it doesn't matter this week. I don't really need to do that this week. Or maybe it looks like I'm just going to go to the fridge one more time, one more time, one more time. Nobody's ever going to know that I'm feeding my feelings. I'm feeding my hurt by food. Or maybe it looks like alcohol. Maybe it looks like drugs for you. Maybe it looks like self-harm. Maybe it's taken the shape of even going outside of your marriage. Those things that lure us away and entice us to something that looks desirable. Maybe it's the things you look at on your phone. Maybe it's even just the thoughts in your mind. Maybe it's that ugliness that's buried. You know, that thing that you don't want anyone else to know about you. The attitude or the aggravation that you have about some things that if anyone knew, they would think differently of you. Whatever it is that has you feeling that kind of trapped and in bondage sort of feeling that I can't get off this roller coaster. If we go to Galatians 5:1, it says, Christ has liberated you to be free. Stand firm then and don't submit again to a yoke of slavery. So if Christ says that you shall know the truth and the truth shall set you free, and I have liberated you to be free. I have. Christ has liberated you to be free. It's already done. So ladies, we feel like stuck sometimes in these patterns of behavior because we think this is just our normal. That we may have salvation and we may be prepared for all of eternity and we're good with that. But this day-to-day regular grind of being able to be free this side of heaven, that's never going to happen for me. We may have that lie in and of itself stuck in our minds. And so where we want to go with this afternoon is to 2 Corinthians 12. What did Paul say? Paul says, 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take this thorn away from me. I was given a thorn in the flesh. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take this away from me. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in your weakness. In your weakness. Ladies, could I go so far as to say, what if we looked at those little things or big things that are trying to lure us away and entice us to something else? What if we've been looking at those and going, that's just a weakness. That's my weakness. This is just what I do. Maybe I'm the only one that's ever done that, but I know for years, some of you may have been on the receiving end of this, and I apologize to you so much, but for years, I wore insecurity like a badge of honor. That I wore it as this is just my thing. And it probably is just my thing. It is something that I do wrestle with. That's true. That is not an untrue statement that I do still wrestle a ton with insecurity issues. But if I hold that as the thing that I use to give me a pass to stay in bondage, I'm outside of God's goodwill for my life, right? And so when Paul says that 3 times he pleaded with the Lord to take it away from him, and God said, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in your weakness." What if we started to look at those day-to-day experiences and realized that Christ wanted us to know the truth, so the truth would set us free, not just for all of eternity, but for those moment to moment to moment, daily experiences where the enemy slithers up next to us and said, "Did God really say? Did God really say this was that big of a deal for you to participate in? Did God really?" I mean, it's not in the Bible that you shouldn't be on the internet this long. It's not in the Bible that this specific thing that you're dealing with, you shouldn't be doing. But it's interesting with Paul in 2 Corinthians, it's just called a thorn. It wasn't anything specific. And I think that that's intentional, because if we knew that Paul had something specific, we might think, oh, well, then that was just for Paul. But because there wasn't anything specific given as what Paul's thorn was, we can all come to that and see, wait a second, Paul was saying that there was something he dealt with regularly, and God's response to it was, "My grace is sufficient." What happened at the cross? The greatest display of grace of all time, ladies. Christ has liberated us to be free. What's holding you in bondage today? That He's saying, "My grace is sufficient for you." When you are too weak to deal with this, don't brush it off as something that I maybe wouldn't help you with. Don't brush it off as something minor. Approach the throne of grace in our time of weakness, in our time of need, whatever is going on, and lay that situation at the foot of the cross, where the resurrection has already defeated the death that happened there. What God sent His Son to do has already happened, ladies. We don't have to live in the bondage of our day-to-day struggles. He's liberated us to be free. And who, in their right mind, that's been liberated, would walk right back into a jail cell? Would walk right back into any kind of imprisonment? We wouldn't do that. We wouldn't want that for anyone that we know or that we care about. So why do we choose it for ourselves? And so as we wrap up, here's where I want you to go with this today. I want you to check out Galatians 5:1 for yourself. I want you to check out 2 Corinthians 12:1 through 10. I want you to get into these scriptures yourself. I want you to go to John chapter 8. You shall know the truth. I want you to read back over John 3:16. All the freedom we need for whatever it is that we face that keeps us trapped and away and deceived apart from God's good, perfect will for our lives. All that we need, it's already done. Ladies, I pray that you will rest in that peace today. I pray that you will find comfort in that. And I just hope that as you approach this month of study with us, I'm so grateful that our Creators Fellowship Ladies group is expanding through the internet, and that we may have some ladies participating that normally never would be able to. And I just thank you for you taking the time to seek out the Word. And I just pray in this time that we are distanced from one another, that we would not be distanced from the Father. I love you. I thank you so much for your sweet time, and I pray God's richest blessing over you today. Have a good day.